Hi, my name is Grant Schneiders. For my Multimodal Project, my research question is, why is wrestling so much bigger in the northern states as opposed to the southern states? Um, Down south, the primary focus for sports is football. You don't hear much about wrestling. Um, I started wrestling whenever I was a freshman in high school, and a couple of my friends that were pretty good, they brought me to a wrestling club, and I started to get a lot better. And my junior year, I started competing in national tournaments. So I would go around the country, and one thing that I did notice that sparked my interest in this question is whenever I go up to these big national tournaments, I would face a lot of good competition from guys in the northern states, and made me realize that it just means more up in the northern states. Down in Texas, you'll have a few good guys, a few good wrestlers, but up north, everybody's good. They have way more funding. There's all the good wrestling colleges are up north. The way they wrestle a lot tougher, a lot harder. And so I have two roommates that I am with that I'm going to interview. One is from Minnesota up north, and one is from down south, Louisiana. And I'm going to interview them and ask them questions about how the wrestling culture was around them whenever they were growing up. And I'm going to contrast how they were and hopefully see why, like, the differences, and see why wrestling it just means more up north as compared to down south here in Texas, Louisiana, all these other southern states. All right, I'm here with my roommate Luke, who wrestled in Minnesota. Since wrestling is huge up north, I want to talk with him about why it's just so much a bigger culture. It's so involved in their culture. When you were growing up, for the first question, when you were growing up in Minnesota, what made wrestling feel like a big deal to you and just like to your area?
Yeah, I mean, I would say up north for sure. Wrestling is a much more popular sport than it is kind of down here. I mean, football is such a big sport here, like especially for the kids growing up. And I feel like growing up, like, yeah, football was there, I guess, but wrestling was always something that, especially like the kids in my neighborhood and the kids in my area did. My dad was a wrestler. Minnesota, I mean, on the TV, it was always there. So it was always kind of a reminder that wrestling was going to be involved, like, in my life. So.
And so, it's like how early in your life did you start wrestling?
I started in, like, fourth grade.
Fourth grade? Okay, yeah. Because I know you talked about how you had a big club, like, around you that you were involved in.
Yeah, I mean, there was clubs all over the place, especially, like, in my area. And, like, it was funny because, like, you'd be going to school with kids that would go to, like, club that would, like, rival y'all at a tournament or something like that.
Yeah.
But, I got involved in the club pretty much right as, like, I mean, that's how I started, School wrestling didn't start till later on in the grade levels. So I pretty much got involved with through our club and stuck with it all throughout high school.
Okay. For the second question, so talk about like the culture, how difficult were the practices, how involved were the coaches, and talk about how like y'all would travel to different areas so that y'all could compete.
Yeah, I mean,
we can just do it.
Yeah, I mean, up there when wrestling is so like kind of important to us, like it's just taken more seriously. Coaches take it more seriously, parents take it more seriously, and you take it more seriously. And I mean, you're with your team, you're trying to win. Whether it's club or whether it's school. So I mean, you're pushing everybody else too. And I mean, I would say the coaches, I mean, they were hard on us, but I mean, they kind of had to be because that's what living up there and playing wrestling requires. So the coaches are always hard. And, it was never a thing that was, like we were never going to just like one tournament like every other. No, I mean, we were always traveling. Like we were always like going all over the place, whether it was club or for school.
That's
we
what
I was going all over the place.
That's what I did notice because I know where I went to high school, like we would just do like we would go to local tournaments in our district and stuff. But I know you talked about how up there, like, y'all were traveling around the state like every weekend for these tournaments, and that
and honestly, sometimes for club we would travel like a little out of state, but
and I know once you got older, like on the national level, you start going to big tournaments like
100%.
Fargo, North Dakota, big tournament. You got a lot of big ones. All right, so next question: what were the crowds like at the meets or state tournaments? Was it normal to have like a big turnout?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially, I mean, everyone's parents were for sure there. Like, everyone's family was for sure there. I think it also depended because, like, for school, we had, like, a lot of, like, I mean, you have your smaller events, then you have your, like, maybe your bigger events that you have to travel further towards, and maybe host more schools. But, like, I mean, yeah, I mean, parents would come all the time, siblings would come. I know, friends would also come. I mean, wrestling has a lot more focus, so the school had more of a backing behind it. But I mean, it does get a little crazy. Like, I mean, because of how much they care up there. I mean, parents are always, parents are screaming, parents are yelling, parents are, it gets a little wild sometimes. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it was really popular last year. Like parents getting into fights.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, especially if you're in a big time tournament and something is perceived wrong or something goes a way that a parent doesn't want it to go. I mean, they're gonna make a scene of it, even if it's something that was supposed to happen kind of happens.
Yeah, yeah. And then last question: if you had to explain why wrestling was so big in the northern states, like overall as a whole, what would you say the main reason is or main reasons are?
I mean, the history of wrestling has always been kind of up north, I feel like. And then, I mean, I think maybe if we're talking about the origin or why it's just continued on so much, it's maybe because of the weather and kind of the climate that they have to live out there. I mean, it's cold. You don't want to go out there and have outdoor sports like basketball or football. So I think having an indoor sport is definitely more of like, that's what people are going to do because outdoors, it's just so limited.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's a great answer. Thanks, Luke.
Of course, I got you.
Absolutely. All right, now I'm here with my roommate Andrew, who wrestled in Louisiana. Wrestling isn't as big in a lot of the southern states, so I wanted to talk to him about how it felt a little bit different. So first question, growing up in Louisiana, how popular was wrestling compared to football or other sports?
Well, I'd say, like, especially at my high school, wrestling was not super popular. I mean, like, even within my own family, my dad played football, my brother played football, always had the Saints game on. It was just much more of a bigger deal to play football, and everyone in my high school played football because went to a really big high school, and you didn't get cut, so anybody could make the team versus wrestling, which was like a much more just smaller sport. Everyone just kind of didn't really think too much of it. And so that was what kind of sucked, is no one really appreciated wrestling back where I'm from versus just other areas, I guess.
So my next question is, when did you start wrestling? And like, how did this compare to like most people up north? Like whenever they started wrestling, probably a little bit earlier.
Well, I mean, I started wrestling in high school, and it's just a little different because like when we went to Fargo, all those kids up there that I met have been wrestling since they were like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of sucks. And then, I mean, I just had such a late start, but I mean, it just kind of made me grind a little bit harder, and that's what made it more fun. Just
Absolutely
working a little bit harder than everybody else because I was already at a disadvantage.
For sure. So my third question is, what did your high school program look like the facilities, the coaching, and like everything else?
I mean, our facilities weren't the best. I mean, the wrestling mat we had was from the football department when they would do mat drills. So, yeah. I mean, everything was kind of half used, especially the coaching. They weren't really wrestling coaches. They just kind of did it as like an extra thing for themselves. And then I always had to go to outside sources like my club, which was like 30 minutes away from my house. So that's what kind of sucked. But I mean, that's where I got most of my training from. And like they're a little bit more professional there.
Absolutely,
which is like better for you. It's a little bit more one-on-one versus someone just kind of doing it for fun.
Yeah.
So that's how I was able to get so much better. It's just like the outside help.
Absolutely, yeah. So for my fourth question, did you ever feel like you had to travel out of state to get better competition?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially because like the local tournaments just kind of sucked. I mean, like I didn't lose one, which like gave me a really big ego. And then going up to Fargo, North Dakota, and I didn't win a single match up there. And I mean, you beat me, so I mean that was the problem. Is like even back home, like the competition wasn't as strong as it was up north. And then my first time going up north, my junior year, it just really like shocked me at how good the people up there are versus like my local tournament and my state tournament.
Yeah, that's like the same thing happened to me. Like I didn't have too much competition down here, and then you go up north, and it's just like you really realize like holy.
Yeah, it's a different type of wrestling up there.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, for my last question, if you had to explain why the South isn't as big on wrestling, what do you think the main reasons are?
I mean, definitely the main reason would be like the schooling. There's not a single D1 wrestling college in the South. The closest one is Arizona. So I mean, that's what's really hard is there's just not an option to go anywhere. So there's not really like a drive for people. I mean, like everyone, if you play a sport, you want to make it big. You want to go to the league. You want to just get free college. You want to go. You want to do your sport for the rest of your life as long as you can. But there's not really an option to where I'm from. So that was what was really hard, and just everyone wanted to grind football because it was easier to get offers. We have an NFL team, we have an NBA team. So that's just like going up north, it's easier to get those offers if you're from there, and it's just easier to get recruited. So that's what is really hard about just wrestling in the South is it's almost like there's like a no end point to it. You just kind of are done once you're done in high school. There's really no point in going anywhere else unless you're really, really good.
Yeah.
So that's what just kind of sucks the most.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you for watching. These interviews definitely help me understand the difference in culture and why there is a difference in culture. This project really gave me the different perspectives, and it answered a lot of questions that I had on why there was such a difference and why it's way more popular up north than it is down here.